Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, a morning show here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports radio station, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, TLab, Rumble, Podchaser, Streaker, Spreaker, and more. Why so many places? Well, I want to balance out all the bad news out there with some good news, good people, and good co-hosts. As you can tell, it is Friday, and we just love doing some straight talk here on this show. And you'll see that I have my good-looking co-host. I shouldn't say that, then the rest of my co-hosts are like, what? We're not But my good-looking co-host, James Hawthorn here. Welcome back to the studio, darling. And for those of you who do not know who James Hawthorn is, because this is your first time tuned in, welcome. And where have you been all of my life? So glad to have you today. James, why don't you give them a 30-second commercial about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I am James Hawthorn. I'm originally from the East Coast and have been out in LA for 14, 15 years. Left a corporate life behind to be a actor, host, and personal trainer. So yes, that's been my journey. And as all of the listeners know, I would love to work with each and every one of you. And the first session is always on me. So if getting healthy is a priority for you in this new year, I would love to help you on that journey. So guests of the show, if you DM me on Action Man Fitness on Instagram, I'm happy to meet with you and work with you on any and all of your health and fitness and nutrition goals.
Fantastic. And you know that I love to start every show with breakfast. And James and I are going to have breakfast by taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich, which is not bite me, but it is the top of the bun is 8 things that we're grateful for that are outside of ourselves. And then on the bottom of the bun, 8 things that we're grateful for inside of ourselves, which is also known as appreciation, because it is my BS, my belief system, that good mental health starts with the foundation of self-care, self-love, self-approval. Because frankly, my dear, if you can't approve of yourself, how the fork do you expect anybody else to? So that's how we start our show, our mornings together. So James, what are you grateful for this morning?
I'm grateful in seeing a lot of people's responses to people that are in crisis because of the fires. I'm seeing a lot of generosity, willingness to help, which I think is so important and beautiful during these times, because so many people have been affected negatively by the fires. And I just love seeing on the news different companies and corporations that are doing their part to help. And then on the individual level, people offering to house the displaced and provide shelter for animals. And it's heartwarming to see, because, it's a very scary time and a negative time for so many. So to see that outpouring of positivity, I'm grateful for it. It makes me feel better about the state of society, that there's a lot of people willing to help.
Absolutely. And I second and third that. I just put the story out that we're on live now, so that those who were not free subscribed on my YouTube channel didn't get the alert. So I am grateful that my friend Harlan, who is one of those who completely lost his house, and worse than that, lost his fur baby, because it freaked out and got out of the carrier and went back in the house. So I'm grateful that he, I checked in with him yesterday. He's doing okay, which is pretty amazing right now. And that he is, sort of leaning on people, which is great. And that is truly um, the, the first week in tragedy is all about, just love, leaning in, and it has definitely affected me in a way that I didn't think, because we have fires a lot in California, but there's one thing about knowing about California fires and another thing when you know someone that you love who has completely lost everything. So if I'm pre-explaining if I'm not my usual self. That is definitely, I've been working through, all of that and trying to practice what I teach. So that's been my challenge. But yes, I am grateful that that people are rising to the occasion and that people are not just shaking their heads and clicking their tongues and rolling their eyeballs about California fires, but they're actually, sending help and support, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about support and friendship on today's show. So while I'm on this, I've been doing this every day since this all started. If you could just humor me and close your eyes really quickly. Those of you who are driving, don't close your eyes if you're listening on the AM, FM, but taking a deep breath in through the nose and releasing comfort, peace, wisdom during this time. And then gently come back to the room. And I do believe that the power of our wishes and our intentions and the power of breath, which is chi, life force, setting those kinds of intentions can also help instead to balance out all the stuff going on. So that's why I've been doing that. Thanks for doing that with me, James. All right. What else are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for the doctors and nurses that are putting up with my father. He recently had a heart valve replacement.
Wow.
And he wants to be home yesterday. And they're saying, nope, you're not going home today, probably tomorrow. So I'm glad that they're drawing a hard line and making sure that he's getting the best care and not going home prematurely to be a burden on my poor stepmom. He hasn't been the easiest patient. So I'm grateful for their patience with my father as he recovers from heart valve surgery, and also grateful for the miracle of modern medicine that they can put a pig valve in there and have him back to normal, where, being the healthy, vibrant 79-year-old that he normally is. So
wow.
I'm very grateful for that.
Wow. Now, when I tell you not to do something and you keep doing it, I'll know who you got that from. Just saying. I am grateful on that same vein for my mom, my bonus mom is 92. She beat Marissa and sepsis. Amazing. And she's just left the hospital. And so she's in a facility now, but she's not happy that she's not home yet. But the fact that she's out of the hospital is a miracle, because she had 104 temperature.
Wow.
She had infection in her blood, in her pacemaker. I mean, it was just like we thought that was going to be it, but she's something else. So I'm grateful for all the healing. What else are you grateful for?
I am grateful for all of my friends. I've got a big birthday coming up. So speaking of talking about ages,
I know. I'm so
like.
excited. I got an invitation. I get to go to the party of James Hawthorn, who's not ageless.
No, I'm turning 40. And
wow. I didn't realize it was that big of a number.
Oh, well, that's why we're doing all the big events. So I'm grateful for all my friends that have RSVP'd that are going to join, and to my mom for putting on a couple of really great birthday dinners for friends and all the folks that have made my life in LA so wonderful and allowed me to live the not so lavish yet free and unencumbered life that I do, not having to had work for the man since March of 2010. And it's thanks to all of my clients and my folks in the entertainment industry that allow me to pursue the things that I'm most passionate about, where I feel like I can make the biggest difference in this world. So grateful to all of them and to all of my friends to help me bring in the big 4-0 with a couple of fabulous meals that are scheduled here for the beginning of February.
Yes, I'm very excited. I told you
Mm-hmm.
on the phone the other day, I'm not really excited about coming for your party. I want to see your mom, but whatever gets me there. No, I'm just
What
teasing.
am I, a piece of meat? Well, actually, sometimes you feel that way when you're in the entertainment industry, but hey, that's all right.
Sometimes you feel like a meat. I am very excited. I have those of you who've been with James and I for a while now know that I very much, I guess, resemble his mom, and I've met her a few times, and I love her energy. So it's definitely a compliment.
Absolutely.
And there you go. I am finally grateful for soap. I guess soap and deodorant. So it is something that I maybe take for granted, and perfume that I know that not everybody has access or, anyways, I haven't done that one before. So I thought I'd throw in another one to balance it out. Let's go to the bottom of the butt, which is, what do you like about yourself? That way you're not looking for likes in all the wrong places with your antenna up, literally on social media looking for likes. If you know what you're good at and what you're not so good at, then you're able to ground yourself no matter who throws you any kind of shade. Say, thank you very much. And I know my value. I know my worth. I'm 88% fabulous. But obviously, you just caught me in my 12%, which is I step in it, but it's okay. So that's the purpose of this exercise. James, what do you like about yourself?
My resourcefulness, and I'll give you a specific example. I made a wonderful dinner last night that did not cost a lot, but it looked like it could be sold for $30 at a restaurant. Yes, the cost of goods and groceries have gone up, but you still can be a thrifty shopper that eats healthy. I'm gonna thank the folks over at Amazon Fresh for starting these grocery stores where the rates are quite reasonable, and you get $50 of groceries, you get $10 off your tab immediately. So I get all my grocery shopping done for under $50 a week, and got some real nice steelhead trout and just boxed couscous, really cheap off the shelf, and just with seasoning it with fresh garlic, onions, herbs. Made a great meal with that and some, skillet veggies that I just whipped up real quick, and little pesto sauce out of a jar. And it tasted fantastic. And it's fresh fish and a lot of good healthy foods. And, it costs just a few bucks. And I like my ability to be resourceful and make the most without having to break the bank.
Wow. You just found a new calling. Yes, chef. You just described that, and I'm hungry. So that's beautiful. That's
it's a little PSA to our listeners, putting on my personal training cap for a minute. Eating healthy doesn't have to be expensive or hard. I whipped it up in about 20 minutes, and by cooking it all on the stovetop, you can watch it and make sure you don't burn it or dry it out. And it's I didn't take any classes. I just experimented. So I encourage people to give yourself some latitude to experiment and learn how to make yourself some healthy meals, because it doesn't take too much time. And if you mess up, hey, it only costs a few bucks. Try again next time.
That's
such a nice thing to be able to do, and to cook for other people is really nice and heartwarming. So
I know I didn't get the invite, so I'll have to get on that list to come over to actually have the meal. And you can clip that little part where you said Amazon. We can definitely have them as a support, or at least a giveaway of some kind, Mister.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to them about that. It's right across the street. I can walk to the grocery. So if you happen to have one nearby, give them a look. It's I like shopping there.
For sure. And while you're on that, on healthy eating, tip number 2, I have discovered I did not like salads at all when I was told, to if that's what you want to lose weight, blah, blah, blah. But I have developed this yummy deliciousness of life love for arugula. So I've been buying arugula to make arugula salad, and a shout out to Stone Fire Grill. And the manager there was so wonderful. The dressing is actually not one of their salad dressings, but their coleslaw dressing. So if you want to try a new taste that is so yummy and you'll want to eat salads, which is a shocker, I put onions and beets and a little cranberry and then whatever meat, little slices of protein I stick in there, and you won't even need croutons. So I'm following you on that.
There you go.
Boy, that's our first time
I'm
on
giving
this
out all
show.
the cooking tips today. You made me think of another one I want to share with our listeners. If you're someone like a lot of my clients that has an aversion to dark leafy green veggies, which are so good for you, probably the most important kind of vegetable you can eat, you should have these staples at home, and you can make just about any dark leafy green vegetable tasty. One, lemon, fresh squeezed lemon juice. A really nice, this is one thing to splurge on, get a really nice extra virgin olive oil, get some Parmesan cheese, even just the good old basic Kraft powder Parmesan cheese is fine, or you can go a little fancy and shave off some thicker pieces. It's really nice. It's a low fat cheese. So Parmesan, olive oil, lemon, and just some garlic powder. And whether you're putting it in a salad and eating the greens raw, or whether you're putting it on sauteed spinach or broccoli, it really elevates it to a whole nother level. And you keep the calorie count down. It makes them delicious, and highly recommend that people give that a shot. And dark leafy green veggies may just become your friend, and for the first time in your life you may be able to eat the amount you're supposed to, which very few people do. But those 4 staples can make a huge difference and open up the world of dark leafy greens to you. So another little free tip that I recommend.
This is turning into a straight talk about healthy eating, which was not our original topic, but definitely some great suggestions and ideas that are coming out of our breakfast.
Right.
Taking a bite out of our gratitude sandwich. So that came out of your appreciation of your resourcefulness. Yes. And I'll finish off. I appreciate my ability to care and to care not just for people in my family or my friends, but the level of I feel like my heart is bigger than my body sometimes, and I'm grateful and I appreciate that I have that. And it is, I think, a muscle that I've exercised. Certainly the abuse that I got when I was a kid, one of the things that happens when you are hurt is your heart hurts, but at the same time, it's just like, when you break a bone or you break something, it actually mends stronger. So I think that my ability to care is enhanced by the negative stuff that happens. So I appreciate my ability to have a heart that is, I sometimes feel bigger than my body. So I appreciate that about myself. All right. And that's it for Breakfast with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorn.
Here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course my YouTube TV channel. We'll do that quick station ID on the station that leaves no listener behind, home to the Asian Oprah and #1 talk in the IE. Thank you very much. And now it is time. Oh, wait. Thanks for joining us for breakfast. I promise that if you have breakfast with me or not for the next 28 consecutive days, you will sandwich your day in the most positive way. And now for the topic of the day. And this says, everything is awesome. James, what is the topic for today?
We're going to talk about how crisis can impact your relationships, your dating, And we're just going to explore that because since, the topic idea came to me thinking about how LA is, in a state of crisis right now. And I thought back to our last crisis, if you will, with COVID. And I know so many friends that ended up developing beautiful relationships during COVID. I know other couples that decided that maybe they weren't right for each other during COVID. And it made me want to just have a discussion, an exploration, if you will, into how crisis can strengthen a relationship, reveal things that maybe need to be worked on in that relationship, and what it looks like, both being in a relationship and dating during times of crisis, whether they be global ones or in your own personal life.
Sounds great. And I also want to just add in there to talk a bit about anyone who is going through crisis right now, and that I believe during this first week or this first month, the most important thing is not to understand or look for reasons or to blame or shame. It is to truly feel what it is that you're feeling, but not alone. To do it with some lean on people that love you, and even if you don't feel like being with them, it's absolutely tantamount in this first week of tragedy to lean on so that you're not feeling isolated and alone. So that's my PSA for anyone, especially my friend that I know of, Harlan, but certainly I know there are others out there who I may not know personally who are also going through that, which is why we want to talk about that on the show today. If you are being affected, if you are having a difficult time and you're listening, or someone who is, please share this. We are live right now, so we can entertain any questions or comments, or just be here. Let this show be your shoulder to lean on during this time. So as well as those who know someone who's going through it, it is also it will impact you in a way that maybe you hadn't expected. So just want to offer that up for us today.
I'd like to piggyback on that, actually. And if you're going through a personal crisis, I believe this is the right word. There's an idiom that I like, and it's that the most personal is often the most universal. So the thing that you might instinctively guard and hold closest to your heart is actually the thing that, if you find the courage to share it, you'll find more support than you ever knew that you had, because people have this empathy for those things that are so impactful, and that if they haven't been through it, maybe they know somebody that has, and you might find that you have more empathy, sympathy, support than you ever knew if you just choose to share. Sometimes we mistakenly think that our problem is so large and so unique that nobody would understand. But if you find the courage to share it, you might find there's more understanding than you ever anticipated. I've certainly experienced that a couple times in my life. And sometimes we think, oh, I don't want to be a burden on somebody. But sometimes, a crisis, whether it's personal or whether it's your reactions to a global or, larger scale crisis, sometimes this idea of not being a burden, it's too much to take on. It becomes too big of a burden for you. And there's so much strength in community. I think that's a big reason why, a lot of people are still very active in church. It's not just about your faith and your religion, it's community. And, I think it's so important to find that in your life, whether it's a kickball league, whether it's a church community that you love, whether you go volunteer at a food kitchen. It really gives you these avenues to not be alone if and when, you're faced with your own personal crisis.
Absolutely. And just to qualify, neither James or I are licensed psychologists or social workers, but we are talking out of our own personal experience. If you are looking for professional help, which we encourage you to do. If you you can call now 211 or 988, 211 or 988. And I just want to put that out there as well. But certainly, if you are sort of starting that little slide, we are definitely the people to try to balance out all of that craziness. That my first thing is turn the TV off. I know the news is trying to be helpful with all of the information about where the fires are and where the evacuations are. But at some point, like any crisis or any tragedy, there's a point where it becomes an overdoing it, and then you're paralyzed and you keep going down, 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 and you're sitting in front of the TV and you don't get anything done, and you can't seem to recharge yourself. That's where I come in, and I want to balance out all of that. That's why we're not showing where the fires are. We're not talking about the fires except for the solution end. So that would be my first thing is, if you are being impacted, there's ways to only know what is pertinent to you. And then as much as possible, try to focus on the here and now. Am I hungry? Am I, afraid? Am I, needing of something? What is it that I need? And then take care of yourself that way, instead of just sitting in front of the TV for 24/7, waiting for the worst case scenario to happen.
Right. Staying informed without having it be in the background so that all of what's going on isn't on this trauma-inducing feedback loop. Check in periodically, but it doesn't have to be every waking moment. It's a very good suggestion. Well, going back, as we look at people that come together in times of crisis, when we look at COVID, I want to talk about maybe some of the, success stories. And I think I've heard about a lot of people sort of coming together, sheltering together because of social distancing, and they maybe put the pedal to the metal on their dating and relationships. You and I tend to value our individual freedom, our independence, but some people, and this is what I want to discuss, because I don't know if it's good, bad, right, or wrong, but some people really don't like to be alone. And when COVID came, they're like, well, whoever I'm dating, they're my COVID buddy, and
hostage.
And they ended up, becoming close and intimate and going through something together, and it led to a beautiful relationship. And at times, I found myself thinking, man, I wish I was, dating somebody when this happened. That would have been kind of nice, and I did not have that. And I look at that, and I wonder whether that's something that is available to everybody, or if it really depends on your personality type. Because I say that's something that I think I would have wanted, but I also wonder, am I too independent to have been able to have enjoyed such a situation? Would I have been one of those people where it drove me crazy to have, just that one person the whole time? Because of social distancing, you're not out there going on all these first dates like you normally, would have. I look back on that and I try to see what I can learn about myself, my nature, and about how I can be moving forward to take advantage of those situations. When life throws you lemons, could I have made lemonade out of it? Or would I had just had a sour taste in my mouth from, rushing to hunker down with one partner? I don't know. I think it's a good question to pose to our listeners. I'm curious what you think about that.
Well, I'm all about balance, and wherever you are, there's going to be benefits and not so benefits. So I'm sure if you were in a relationship that you were kind of hostaged with in the shelter at home, there's benefits in having someone. And I go through this every time I think about my dating life and how I'm still holding at 26 first dates, 2 second dates, 3 third date, 1 third date, and 1 fourth date, because when I come home at night after a movie or after whatever, and I think to myself, I'm so glad I get to just chill out with myself. I don't need to talk to anybody. I don't need to be anything for anybody. And definitely the benefits of being single, right? And then on the other hand, it would be nice if I, could snuggle with someone right now. So I, like you said, there's no right and wrong in this. I think there are benefits and not so benefits. And as long as your benefits outweigh the not so benefits, then you're golden. But it's when you're focused, and this is where, the power of focus and intention, you can make any great relationship suck if you focus on those things that aren't working. And at the same time, you can make a relationship that you're not thrilled about better if you begin to focus on things that are working instead. So it's all up here. I've said this before. It's your choice. Our most powerful tool is the ch word, not the C word. It's nothing about commitment. It's choice. What do you really want to make this work or not? And if you try and it's working 80% of the time, it's something to keep continuing with. But if it's not, now during COVID, if it wasn't working, that's a difficult time, right? Because there is nowhere else necessarily you can go, unless you can find a solitary apartment during that time, which I actually heard some people did.
Yes. Another benefit, I feel like regardless of whether you come together during a time of crisis or not, every relationship has a learning curve. And if the relationship is going to work, each partner has to go on their own individual learning curve to discover how they are in relationship and in relationship with that other person, because the relationship happens in this in-between space, I believe, between two people. And who you are in relationship with one person may be different than who you are in relationship with another based on what they're giving you. In acting, good acting is about sending and receiving impulses and reacting to what your partner's giving you. And I think that real life works that way too, if you're going to be a good partner. And I believe that COVID, I think, accelerated a lot of people's learning curves because you're limited in what activities you can do, how much independence, you can have if you are already living together or choose to, live together. I think it accelerates everybody's learning curve. And that can be a good thing, because it's as if you've been married or together for 10 years when you go through a couple years of COVID and quarantining and social distancing, because you have to learn all this stuff much quicker. And those little things that might annoy you about a person and how you deal with that, you have to learn it quicker. And then anybody that's been in a relationship for a really long time talks about how you have to keep finding the love and keep it fresh. And I think that was very difficult to do during that time of crisis, during COVID. And for the people that did it, they developed that muscle, that skill set that I think makes the relationship that much stronger for however long, much longer they stay together. So when I look at couples that really became close and inseparable during COVID, I look at them now, I have to imagine that there was some element of that happening that has contributed to their success today.
Mm-hmm. I have a funny COVID story. I would say it was probably like 6 months into COVID, and or whenever it started either shutting down or opening up. So you couldn't go to restaurants, but you could do takeout. So wherever that was, don't remember exactly, but I was in line at a Asian restaurant I love here, Asian Legends, I think it's. I have great memory, but horrible recall. So I was in line, and we were all social distancing, like 6 feet apart. I was about to say 6 inches, where my head is, 6 feet apart. And good looking younger guy was like behind me, and got my food and everything. He was making small talk or whatever. So once, or he got his food first. and then waited until I got my food and walked sort of, safely back to my car. And he said, I would say he was a good 2 decades younger than me, like super cute, but even though I'm ageless. But he says, so are you single? And I said, yes. And he goes, well, how about, we get dinner and a movie sometime? I'm like, do you know we're in the middle of pandemic number 1? And then do you know how much of an age difference there is here? And I said, so how old are you? And he goes 20, I think he was 24. And I said, you're super cute, but you're too old for me. And he went, what? But it was a great, anyways, that's my COVID dating story.
I mean, that's a bold move. Maybe he was feeling isolated, and he needed. He says, "I need connection."
Anything will do.
That's wild. That's wild. I think sometimes to talk about the flip side of the coin about people coming together in crisis, and I'm going to put the moose on the table here, as you like to say. There was definitely a time when I was really, heartbroken over the loss, the breaking up of somebody that I was really crazy about, but geography and practicality were not on our side. And shortly after we decided to call it quits, I met somebody else, and that was such a salve to that sense of loss that I felt, that I think that I maybe rushed into that next dating experience, relationship. It was almost like maybe a form of self-medication. So I was going through a bit of a personal crisis in terms of my feelings and dealing with a sense of loss. And I think I, entered into the next relationship a little prematurely, a little too quickly. And I think we tried to make something work that wasn't the best, total fit. So on the flip side of the coin, sometimes when you find yourself in a state of crisis, or the world's in a state of crisis, I think it's important to check in with yourself and take inventory of your feelings. And if you know what you're feeling, and if you practice some meditation, sometimes even why you're feeling it will come to you. If you don't try to solve it with logic, but you just solve it with breath and awareness, sometimes it just hits you. It dawns on you, and you're like, oh, that's why I'm, feeling this way. And the answers come. And I think that can help you from making mistakes that can lead to unhealthy relationships, or relationships that maybe aren't the best for you. So having been guilty of that myself, I think that's the flip side of the crisis coin when it comes to dating and relationships. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where maybe you sought the company of somebody else to ease a personal crisis?
I prefer food to comfort. A little less messy. Just kidding. We need to take a quick break for news, weather, and traffic here on the show. So we'll say we'll be back in 2 and 2. Don't go away. I will answer that in more seriousness when we come back. Don't go away. Chuck Woolery said 2 and 2. You know me. It's peace in, peace out. But don't go away. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Balanced Tai Chi Gong. My name is Dr. Marissa Pei. For the next 28 minutes, we will be slow dancing with the universe in a moving meditation that promotes inner peace, one breath at a time. Just follow the sound of my voice and move with me as I guide you through this ancient wisdom through New Thought practice. As a corporate psychologist, I created this practice in response to my life and those of my clients. We were professional, high-achievement-oriented, multitasking control freaks, and exhausted. No matter how many successes, it was never enough. That, coupled with a painful life experience, led me on a quest to find another way to live and back to my Chinese roots. If you practice regularly, I can promise you that it will impact all health vortexes, body, mind, spirit, soul. You will be in a place of balance and inner peace the way we were created. 谢谢.
Be my partner, dance with me. Just
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, home to the Asian Oprah, the station that leaves no listener behind, AM 1050, FM 106.5, number one talk in the IE. Thank you very much. And streaming everywhere, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course, my Show Central YouTube TV channel, 1,303 shows, almost 1,304 shows strong over the last 622 consecutive weeks. But who's counting? And I'm so delighted that today is Straight Talk with myself and
James Hawthorn wearing his Dodger blue. Only 2 more weeks till spring training starts. I finally will have purpose again.
Yes, he's my Dodger teacher. And thanks to him, I've become a Dodger fan. And if you are in need of any kind of training help, he is a great physical trainer with a lot of extra bonus stuff like recipes, if you missed the beginning of the show, for healthy eating, as well as emotional motivation. And certainly he has the expertise on how to maintain the svelte looking body that he has. And speaking of meditation, as you were talking about before the break, that's why I chose that particular promo to put on. I do teach balanced Tai Chi Gong. It's a moving meditation that promotes inner peace, one breath at a time. I bring that to my public speaking when I do it on stage, as well as working with corporations or any organization. And I do have a nonprofit arm that will gift that. So if you're interested in that, please do go to my website, drmarissa.life, and question me about that. I'm happy to work with you on that, especially now where I think meditation is definitely a great solution for anything that you're going through. All right. I forgot the question you asked me.
Yes. My question was, have you ever entered into a dating scenario or relationship in a time of personal crisis? Because sometimes that can be a great thing, but if we're not aware of what we're feeling and why we're feeling it, sometimes I think it can lead us to bring our baggage into a relationship, or maybe put blinders on to the other person and maybe enter in a relationship that's not the best for us, as I was guilty of. So I'm just curious if you have any experience with entering into dating or relationship in a time of crisis in your life.
James is daring me to put the moose on the table, which is my Canadian version of talking about the elephant in the room. And as usual, I will live my life out loud, usually to my own detriment. But yes, the answer is yes. After the divorce, where I had chosen a man, my husband emphasized the BS belief systems that I held as one of the 7 out of 10 of us who've had childhood trauma. I was told I was unattractive, ugly, fat, and undesirable. So I picked a man who would introduce me as obese out to people that didn't know me and did not desire me. And so you can fill in the blank on that. So it'd been a long time. So after the divorce, I did jump into several I don't know if they would be called relationships, James. Actually, there was one. And I, there was an article in LA Times years ago, and it was called The Seasons of Life for a Woman. And that women of a little older age were having their pilot lights lit by younger men who made them feel alive again. And I definitely went through that. I ended up breaking up with him because he had originally wanted to have children. And then he said he fell in love with me, wanted to marry me, and said he no longer desired children. And I was like, no way, Jose. That's not his name. But I did not want that to be, I didn't want to rob him of that. I loved him, or whatever that was, that feeling, so much that I did not want to take that from him. So it was very sad. But and I'll say he's not a good example of that. I think that it was a really good relationship for me to have, to understand that I could be desired and loved and could have a passionate, beautiful relationship. It really was beautiful. I'll never forget that day when it was the final goodbye and he was going to go back to Portugal. And oh my gosh, it was like, Josh Groban is playing in my car, and I'm driving away, and I'm looking in the mirror, the side mirror, and he's crying, and I'm crying. It was like a movie. But yeah, that answer your question?
Yeah. But, it sounds like at that time you needed that. You were getting the exact opposite of validation and words of affirmation from your husband. And so very natural to seek that. But as you said earlier, right, we open with the gratitude, the breakfast sandwich, the gratitude, and the what we like about ourselves, because if you don't approve of yourself, who else can? And I'm going to put another moose on the table for me. During another time of personal crisis, I was definitely having casual sex with a lot of different guys. And I'm like, why is this desire so insatiable? This was like back in my late 20s. And when I really unpacked it, and when the casual sex became unfulfilling, so, well, now what do I do? Because that was my medication, so to speak. I realized that I was really struggling with a sense of purpose in my life. I had changed everything to live the life that I've been living, and I was just in a state of dissatisfaction with it. There was a lot of struggle in a lot of avenues of my life. And rather than allowing myself to feel that and acknowledge that, because it's tough to say I changed everything and I'm just as unhappy as I was before I left my corporate life, because it's easy to immediately, for your ego to go, well, then you must be a failure. And I didn't give myself space to acknowledge that that's what was going on. And that's what led me to jump into seeking that affirmation, that validation, to feel like, if I can get these guys, then I'm good at something. And it was silly, because I was good at all those other things, but because there was struggle in my life and I was struggling with purpose as well, I was going through a personal crisis of purpose and was seeking help from others before acknowledging the, help, just the instant gratification of sexual conquest. I was seeking that rather than giving myself space to figure out what was really going on inside. And so that was another time when I entered into, like I said, you couldn't really call it dating, but into that realm and not necessarily a healthy way. So,
Yeah.
I just want to flag that for people that are out there and might go through it. Hopefully I've learned from that mistake, and hopefully can help other people maybe avoid that, and make sure that when you're, getting under the covers and going out on dates, you're doing it because you're in a good place and you've done your personal work and given yourself that space to deal with your own feelings. So that's my little PSA.
And thank you for being honest about that. And that's why this is called Straight Talk, because we will give it to you straight about our own experiences in our own lives, so that it is a topic to be able to reflect on and make choices maybe that are more healthy. And so I appreciate that you just shared that. It definitely speaks to why I love the movie, Jerry Maguire, but I do not like the whole understanding that we grow up with Cinderella, Snow White, and you complete me. That you need that another person is going to provide for you something that you don't have, and for many it's that approval. If you're looking for love in all the wrong places, that's exactly, if you cannot approve of yourself, if you cannot love yourself solid, then, and you're looking to a relationship to provide that validation and that approval, you're sunk, man, because that person is not your supporting actor or actress. They got their own show, and you got to be your own support in that sense, so that you can stand. And 100% coming together with 100% is way better than 50% coming together with 50%, because oftentimes it's not even a match on the 50, and it's rarely 50. Sometimes more, sometimes less. And so that is definitely, it's not an adage, right? You can't really truly love someone unless you love yourself. I used to hear that and I go, well, that's not necessarily true, because you can find that love in that one person who will complete you and make sure you're whole. And we grow up with that, and it's such bullshit talky, and drives me crazy, because then it drives so many other things in our society. How we look, we're doing it to please other people, and what we want is this fairy tale relationship which doesn't exist. And anyways, I could go on.
Another adage that speaks to that: wherever you go, there you are. So if you're only bringing 50% of yourself because you haven't done the work and to deal with your stuff, that other 50% is going to be missing no matter who you're with. And I have, to play devil's advocate, I've heard stories of people genuinely growing in relationships because their partner is so loving, empathetic. They help them on that journey, but it's still that individual that does the work, goes through that journey. Now, you can have a loving partner that supports you along the way, and you can grow together. I've seen that, and I think that's as close to a fairy tale as you get, and it's the most beautiful thing there is, and it does happen. But I don't think you can nor should count on that. You don't want to go in expecting somebody to fill in that deficit for you, or to do the heavy lifting for that other 50% or whatever percent is lacking. If you're lucky and have the best partner, they can help you on the journey and help you get there faster and with love and support. But it's not something that you can ask for or expect, is what I'm going to say about that.
Mm-hmm. And I'll play angel's advocate to that, because there's a very fine line between support and enabling. So if you are a person, and I think specifically of my interview with Tony Tennille. So, Captain and Tennille, love will keep us together, but it didn't. For 39 years, she stayed in that relationship, continuously hoping that she could bring his Eeyoreness and his pessimism and worst case scenario and life sucks attitude with her optimism and her care and her love. And 39 years later, if I do this with my kids when they started talking about dating and relationships. If you are here and they are here, and you're making a 50% move, if they don't make a 50% move to meet you, it's not a match. Because if you're making here and then they only do this, your tendency is to meet them over here. You're doing 80% of the work. Then you're enabling them by saying, it's okay. You don't have to take care of your side. I'll come meet you. And that's that whenever, you're saying, and maybe you don't mean that, but when you're saying meet someone who will help you with the growth and help you with that in my mind, that's like a huge red flag, because you're really helping them stay where they are. Now, you did say that, if you really sincerely want to grow and you sincerely want to, be, but for me, like anytime I meet someone who is angry about their last relationship and or is in the middle of a divorce or, has mother father issues, it's a huge flag for me because I do this for a living. The last thing I want to do is come home and have to work with you.
Right.
So
Right. But when it does work, sometimes it's because that partner is very patient, loving, supportive, and they're not doing the work for the other person, but they're saying, you know what, I'm happy with you 88% of the time, and I'm going to give you grace for the fact that you have these wounds. So it's this idea of a partner that accepts you for, what you've been through, and they love you anyway. And that, I think, is a very beautiful thing, but you just can't expect that your partner is going to do the work for you. You still have to heal yourself. And if you're lucky enough to have that patient, loving partner, wonderful. But it's a lot to ask of somebody to, make that transformation for you. The last thing, because I know we're running out of time, that I just want to put out there to our audience is this idea of leaving relationship in crisis. We talked about entering into it. Sometimes the relationship itself is the crisis. And I think when you look at infidelity and things like that, that also comes from that same lack of awareness of why you're feeling discontent in your relationship or what it is that's stressing you out. And before leaving your relationship, in crisis, take inventory on it, really see what the actual problem is. And maybe it can be resolved or solved, especially if it's something like you need to work on your communication, or you're not respecting or honoring, someone's love language. And if you were just more aware or patient, you could, and that could be an easy fix. So sometimes if the relationship is the crisis, before you rush to do something that implodes the whole thing, like infidelity or something like that, and then lying about it, take a good hard look at what it is that you currently have and whether it's worth working towards or saving before you turn a crisis into a catastrophe.
I like that. We're going to have to do that. Let's bookmark 2 weeks from now when James is back as a co-host of Straight Talk. Let's talk about cheating. I don't think we've ever talked about, done a show on relationships about cheating. What happens when someone cheats? So
there's so many shades and colors and
so
motivations for it. And
you have to remember, because my memory, remember, because we're always like, what do we want to talk about tomorrow? So cheating. That would be a great topic. My final word is actually a funny story talking about older women, younger men dating after the divorce, and leaving my husband. There was a guy who had asked me out forever, and he was younger, and I had said, there's no part of being a cougar that I want to be. But after the divorce, I was like, okay, fine. And he said, I've always been attracted to older women, which if you're a younger guy, never say that. But anyways, I said to him, so what is it like dating Mrs. Robinson? And he said, who's Mrs. Robinson?
That's how you got an age gap right there.
That's how you dipped way too low. But anyways, I'll finish with that funny. Thanks so much for joining us today on Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
James Hawthorn.
We're absolutely loving that the eyeballs have been here listening in and watching. Next, in 2 weeks, if you want to talk about cheating, we'll ask you to put some comments in the chat, and then we can throw them up on the screen. But in the meantime, let's see. Next Straight Talk is with Ricky Rebel. Monday is Mental Health Matters Mondays. Keep it here on the show every weekday morning at 9 Pacific time live. This is Dr. Marissa wishing you all the balance in the world. Thank you for the finger. We got a finger at the end. This one, not the other one. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace. James, take it out.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And I can't wait to see you in a couple weeks when we talk about cheating. We're going to help you ace the love exam and help you be honest honor students.
And have the best weekend ever.